Keep him up there.
Come over here, sir.
Keep him up there.
Sheriff,
Let's go.
What are you doing?
Stay out here.
Just stop.
Jesus. Really?
They hurt. Am I under arrest?
You're being detained.
Well, yeah. Why do I have to have cuffs on?
Serving and executing warrants are common elements of any cop's job, but what happens when that warrant has to be served on another police officer? How much do cops let their peers get away with? On May 14th, 2020 in New Mexico, warrants were served on Rio Arriba County Sheriff James Lujan for his personal and professional county-issued cell phones. The search was in relation to 2 instances in which Lujan, dressed in plain clothes, tried to interfere with the investigation of Espanola police. The officers involved confirmed they had not called him to either scene and felt that he was obstructing their efforts. The first incident occurred in March 2020 when police were attempting to serve former Espanola City Councilor Philip Chacon an arrest warrant relating to an attack on one of his tenants. Chacon did not immediately comply, however, he did barricade himself inside of his home. It was during this standoff that body cam footage showed Lujan randomly arriving on the scene.
Pull everybody out. I'll bring them in.
He instructed a female officer.
I want to pull them back.
Excuse me? I'm not asking. I'm telling you. I will bring him in. Okay? We don't need to make this bigger than what it is.
Hey, the sheriff just pulled in, and he's asking us to pull back, and he'll pull him in, but he's been drinking. I can smell it on him.
She then declared that she was going to call a superior officer to handle the situation because Lujan was already pushing his weight around with her. "We're not pulling back," she eventually shared with the other officer. Then she asked if he too smelled alcohol on Lujan, which he confirmed. Chacon eventually surrendered and was arrested. However, throughout the encounter, Lujan revealed to Espanola officers that he had been communicating with Chacon while he was still locked inside his home. He also showed her text messages that were meant to imply that Chacon wasn't actually inside of his home and instead in Santa Fe at one point. Throughout the investigation of Chacon's case, police found texts, Facebook messages, and emails that led to suspicious against City Councilor John Raymond Vigil. It was alleged that Chacon sent Vigil information pertaining to other violent batteries he was involved with. When asked, first as a witness, by police about this, Vigil said that he received random stuff including pictures from Mr. Chacon that he would never view. He was also alleged to have coached Chacon on how to further elude demolition of property that he wanted to purchase during a council meeting. Because of his behavior and failure to assist police, Vigil was charged with 2 counts of conspiracy, 1 count of unlawful interest in a contract worth more than $50, all 4th-degree felonies, and a misdemeanor count of refusing to aid an officer in connection with Chacon's investigations. However, all charges were later dismissed. Vigil was actually elected mayor of Espanola in 2022, which was controversial among some of its residents and sparked the resignation of several former officials. All of this relates to the second incident Lujan involved himself in May 2022. Lujan decided to show up again, but this time with Undersheriff Martin Trujillo, with detectives Ernest Sasueto and Zach Wright, arrived at Vigil's home to serve a warrant for Vigil's phone, which was the source of some of the evidence mentioned earlier. During that incident, Lujan called and talked to Vigil's lawyer. However, Vigil eventually came out of his home and his phone was confiscated by the detectives without further incident.
Why is the sheriff here?
Lujan was already under suspicion for his odd behavior during the standoff with Chacon, and this additional intervention only grew the target on his back. In fact, he was already on 9th Judicial District Attorney Andrea Reeves' radar before the 2 incidents even occurred. She said that she received calls from numerous people accusing Lujan of wrongdoing, but all the accusers were too afraid and wanted to stay anonymous. So she was never able to pursue prosecution against him. Not until he pulled the 2 obstructions, that is. With his connections to Chacon and Vigil, it was soon apparent that Lujan's phones would also need to be seized, and a warrant was issued. Reeves said that she wanted to examine the nature of the communications Lujan engaged with Chacon and/or Vigil. She also stated that she also wanted to see if there were patterns in both of Lujan's alleged obstructions. Every encounter with law enforcement was combative. It was always a power thing with him, Reeves noted of Lujan's behavior. It was always this arrogance. It was always, "I'm the top law enforcement official in the land," or "in Rio Arriba County." And the warrant similarly stated, Sheriff Lujan continues to show a pattern of arriving on active scenes in which Espanola police personnel are investigating crimes and interfering. This brings us back to May 14th. Lujan continued his defiant, higher-than-mighty behavior when officers attempted to serve the warrant, calling for 2 of his phones. Body cam footage showed Lujan reading the warrant and questioning its legality on numerous occasions.
Have the case number on here for the original.
Right there.
That's a PD case number. It doesn't have a magistrate or a district case. in district court too, and this is a magistrate warrant. Okay?
Lujan also declared to Wright and Sossueto that he wanted to talk with his lawyer, Nathaniel Tompkins, before the search warrant could be executed. Throughout the video, Lujan was continually argumentative, and he and others employed at the sheriff's office were allowed to roam around aimlessly, with several chances for Lujan to delete things off of the phones. At one point, he handed the phones to Trujillo, and then claimed he didn't even have them. As Lujan continued to be non-compliant, tensions rose so high that Police Chief Roger Jimenez, one of the officials who resigned after Vigil was elected mayor, had to get involved.
You know, I don't want to, I really don't. I don't want to have to put anybody in cuffs, I don't. But if that's what I have to do, then I will do it. I don't want to do that.
Then, after Lujan, Jimenez, Wright, and Sossueto found themselves outside, Lujan grinned and gestured to his body and said that the search warrant stated that the officers could search his person for the phones.
You have your search warrant says to search me for personal phones?
He has the phones. He already told me he has the phones.
Okay. That's not what the search warrant says, does it?
Okay, so you want us to lock down the sheriff's office? You're going to stay out here, sir. Stay out here. Stay out here. Because no. Under sheriff, you can go through the court system. We're going to lock down this building until he gives me those phones. Really? Yes, that's what the DA's office is. Really? Yeah. Where's he going? He's going out.
You're not going to stop me from leaving if I want to leave. Am I under arrest?
If we have to.
Am I under arrest?
Not
Then
now.
Get away from me.
Not now. Go back inside. We're gonna go back in the office. Seriously.
Don't touch. Back up.
You can go in the office, but
Back up. Don't touch. Don't reach.
For whatever reason, after a while, Lujan had a change of heart, and he ordered Trujillo to hand over the phones. However, Reeb, who was appointed as special prosecutor in the case, later said that she suspected that neither of the phones produced were the ones the prosecution wanted. She alleged that Lujan had a third phone that he had been seen talking on and using before the first search warrant. Lujan was arrested and charged with failing to comply with the stipulations of a search warrant and physically resisting arrest. He was also charged with resisting, evading, or obstructing an officer in relation to the Chacon and Vigil interactions. Under Sheriff Trujillo was charged with aggravated assault on a peace officer after ordering deputies to draw their firearms against the police who tried to execute the search warrant of Lujan, but his case was dismissed after he agreed to retire at the end of February 2022. But it turns out that this wasn't the only time Lujan had disobeyed the law and helped his friend Chacon evade police contact. In fact, on December 2nd, 2021, he was convicted by a Santa Fe jury of harboring a felon, in which he helped Chacon hide after a high-speed chase in 2017 and intimidating a witness when he told a deputy not to tell anyone where Chacon was. That was the second trial on those counts, as the jury couldn't reach a verdict in the first one, which occurred earlier in June. He was sentenced by State District Judge Kathleen McGarry Ellenwood to 3 years in prison and a year and a half of probation. As Lujan was being sentenced, the judge said, "There are some elected officials such as a judge, a district attorney, and a sheriff that are held to a higher standard." She also said that he let down the people of Rio Arriba County who elected him. Rio Arriba does not have its own laws, nor is the law applied any differently there than anywhere else in the state. Judge McGarry Ellenwood commented, "The law is the law. You are not above the law, nor can you ignore the law when it serves your purpose." Rio Arriba County Manager Lucia Sanchez confirmed that Lujan resigned an hour after he was convicted through a single-sentence letter in which he wrote that he was stepping down with a heavy heart. During the trial, Dennis Mayes, a private investigator hired by the New Mexico Attorney General's office, reminded the court of other instances of unethical behavior Lujan was accused of, including a pending civil case filed by the American Civil Liberties Union alleging that he harassed a journalist, a suit filed by a former deputy alleging that Lujan violated the State Whistleblower Act, and a $55,000 settlement paid by Rio Arriba County in 2020 to a man who said Lujan pulled him over and shouted obscenities at him for having a Mexican flag on his truck on July 4th. Mayes said, "During my time as a Secret Service agent, I was all over the world working with different law enforcement agencies, big ones, small ones, rich ones, poor ones, and I have never, ever had the experience of dealing with a law enforcement agency like that of Sheriff Lujan's. I would say that if there was anyone who deserves a substantial term of incarceration, it's James Lujan." It's interesting to note that Lujan was not the first Rio Arriba County Sheriff to get into legal trouble. His predecessor, Thomas R. Rodella, is currently serving 10 years, broken down in 37 months for deprivation of rights and 84 months for brandishing a firearm while committing the civil rights offense, a total of 121 months of imprisonment. With 3 years of supervision to be completed after he is released from prison, he was also ordered ordered to pay a $200,000 fine. During his trial, evidence established that on May 11, 2014, Rodella and his son, in Rodella's personal vehicle, engaged in an unwanted high-speed pursuit of a victim identified only as MT. They then blocked MT's vehicle on a dead-end lane. Rodella Jr. proceeded to drag MT from his car, and he identified his father as the sheriff. When MT asked to see Rodella's badge, he was assaulted with a firearm and the badge itself. After that encounter, Rodella told his deputies to arrest the man, and he was released from custody 2 days later. Hopefully, Mayes said during Lujan's trial, the next sheriff of Rio Arriba County will learn from Lujan and Rodella. It's not your fiefdom, it's not your kingdom. You are elected by the people, and it's your responsibility to protect and to serve them. After hearing conflicting testimony regarding Lujan's character, in which his son and one of his peers described him as compassionate and a hero who was the most honest and kind-hearted man, Judge McGarry Ellenwood said that she has felt if she was hearing the descriptions of two separate people. She told Lujan, "You did serve your community, and at times you served it well. At other times, you did not." When it came for him to address the court, Lujan simply said,
Yes, Your Honor, I try to do the best that I can to help everybody I can, and I in no way would want to harm anyone.
After his sentencing, Lujan was not handcuffed, as many other convicted felons would be, and he grasped his hands against his chest while being escorted out of the courtroom. Lujan's attorney, Jason Bowles, said that he will likely appeal this verdict and asked the judge to let his client remain free pending that appeal. His request was denied. He is still awaiting trial for charges related to his behavior in 2020.